I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Harry Litman of the Talking Feds YouTube channel, the Talking Feds podcast. Harry, I want to get very, very technical here because as I was going through Justice Arthur Engoron's 90-plus page order, specifically the conclusions and order, there was an area regarding the prior summary judgment that Justice Arthur Engoron made back on September 26th of 2023, where he ordered the cancellation of the Trump Organization business certificates. And what he seems to have done in the order, and let me read this provision, is to basically provide the responsibility now for determining what remedies, if any, regarding cancellation should take place as part of the broader duties of the independent monitor, who got extended powers in this order, in addition to the $364 million plus disgorgement verdict that was issued. And then you have to add on to that the prejudgment interest. Here's what it says. I want to get your take on it, then I'll give my take on it. But ultimately, I think that the judge was trying to make sure this would be appeal proof and that the other aspects of this order would sting. So here's what it says. Ordered that this court's September 26, 2023 decision and order, that's referring to that summary judgment that everybody talked about before the trial started, is hereby modified solely to the extent of vacating the directive to cancel defendants' business certificates without prejudice to renewal upon the recommendation of the independent monitor or based on substantial evidence. And then it goes on to some of the other remedies, involving certain business limitations for Trump and his adult kids, certain limitations going to insurance companies, and then prior to that, the big $364 million disgorgement. So what do you make of that, Harry?
Can I first say, Ben, power to you. We're 3 hours in. Nobody has seen this, but you did. You read things carefully the way lawyers should. It's a really significant detail too, and it jumped out at me. Remember, way back when we learned that Engoron had given summary judgment on one count and the others were going forward, and he had imposed what everyone was calling a corporate death penalty, which was the so-called certificates of completion, and yanking them essentially was taking away the corporate powers to act and making them under other authority than Trump. And that just went right up to the appellate division, the Court of Appeals, the appellate court here, for them to decide. So it was sort of part and parcel of what was going to be up on appeal, whatever happened with Engoron. Well, I think you're totally right. He's now, and $355 million, that's a lot, but they asked for $370. I mean, I think he is thinking about appeal. And that feature, it turns out, I just, I've done a little bit of looking at it since it first came up, is a little dicey under New York law. I won't bore the Meidas mighty with too much inside baseball, but 63 parentheses 12 of the New York Civil Code states, and it makes it seem like that might be vulnerable on appeal. And as you suggest, he really, after all this stuff and an 11-week trial and really socking it to Trump, he wants it to hold up. And in any event, what he did today in response to the request from the AG James, of forbidding Trump and the kids for 2 years, Trump for 3 years from being a director or officer in any corporation. That comes pretty close. Not quite as severe as these certificates, which really are taking the incorporation powers and just tearing them up. But I think I feel fairly certain this is the only explanation. He's thinking about appeal now. He looked hard at this. Maybe a court helped him out. But Trump would actually have a decent argument on this one. So Engoron took it away from him, and can still sock him pretty good in the way he did, but makes it less likely he is reversed. That's my read of it.
Also you have Donald Trump through his lawyer Cliff Robert. They've attacked this retired federal judge, Barbara Jones, who's so well respected, like one of the most
Totally. Good luck
in
with that. Yeah.
demand. Like, you can get more respected, but like in terms of trying to file an appeal, if you were going to say, hypothetically, Justice Engoron, he's this eclectic guy who's, citing neoclassical poetry in his orders and all of these things. And by the way, I'm fine with that if you're also focused on the facts and the law. But I'm just playing devil's advocate here. If you're going to go in that direction and said, Engoron had animus, Engoron has all of these issues, and Engoron, his law clerk, his son, his mother, his wife, all the stupid attacks that Donald Trump does, right? Okay, so your thing is Engoron is bad, which I disagree with. Sure.
Yeah.
Then you're going to go after, though, retired federal judge Barbara Jones, because then it allowed Engoron to do exactly what he did in the footnote, which is, all of a sudden, this was a respected, retired federal judge who even Trump, your lawyers, agreed that she should be the independent monitor. Everybody was praising her. And then she writes a bad letter back on January 26th of 2024. And now she's just like me and Judge Lewis Kaplan and Justice Juan Merchan. We're just at Judge Chutkin. We're on the list now. So it just backfired extra for Donald Trump. And then Engoron, you could even look at it this way, says, you know what? Here's how I'm going to deal with the business certificate issues. The judge who you just attacked in private practice, I'll give her the decision. I'm going to toss it to her. We'll let her make that call after doing a thorough investigation into the organization.
Yeah, and I don't like to get too brand conscious, but as I know, federal court, Southern District of New York versus state appellate court, that's really a very prestigious perch, the Southern District of New York. And as you say, Jones is really sort of, unimpeachable. Now, I think you're right. And he doesn't have much to go on Trump. That will be his main theme, I think. I didn't follow every second of the 11-week trial, but it's a judge trial, so you're not worried about evidentiary rulings, etc. There were a couple times, including, it surprised me last week, where Engoron kind of lost his temper with him a little, got red under the collar, and including this letter back and forth having to do with will Weisselberg plead. And, he took Trump to task and was obviously upset at the accusation that his rulings are biased, etc., which of course he could be in your chambers, but I was a little surprised that he put it on the record. So that's going to be a snippet anyway for Trump to go after. But all the things you're talking about, which, by the way, Trump, it's always his play. He probably even believes it. Everyone's against him, etc. As you know, really, really hard to be the basis of a reversal. All kinds of principles in the law that you assume regularity, and maybe you bring a separate lawsuit if you think you've been singled out, but that's not a reason for if you're genuinely guilty to undo the verdict. And that whole theme is, it's like a camel through the eye of a needle, as they say. Just a very hard thing to make. He's trying to do it in other places as well. It's what he's done in Mar-a-Lago, and he's doing it now in the immunity. That's how he started the Supreme Court brief. And there's just, the law is really clear. It's you have to have special circumstances and compelling facts to get to first base on that. He's got neither.
Yeah, and I think you being a former top person at the Department of Justice and seeing it from the inside, getting that perspective of what does it mean that a retired federal judge from the Southern District of New York, other than the
Southern District of New York, as they like to call it,
other than the Supreme Court justices, you don't really get more prestigious than that. So Cliff Robert from, and I say this endearingly because I grew up in Long Island, but Cliff Robert with his law firm from Long Island attacking the SDNY Judge Barbara Jones and going after her. And now to make sure, like, it's added protection is how I view it from any type of appeal on the issue of the certificates. I think Engoron looked at his 90+ page ruling. It goes, this is appeal proof.
I agree.
This is appeal.
I agree.
One area
in New Yorkese, it's like, don't even think about going there. Right? Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's passing the ball over to LeBron James if you're on the Lakers, and it's in a vaulted area with Barbara Jones, who's gonna, take a look at this. And now, what did Cliff Robert Trump?
Do we have to say Kovic now instead of LeBron James when we're doing basketball analogies? That guy is mind blowing. Anyway, sorry, viewers, a little departure. Sorry,
we could go through it all, and we can go through any.
That's another Friday. This Friday, there's too much news and law to talk about. I think we can agree.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it. I wanted to go through. Look, we've talked, you and I, about other aspects of this verdict.
Yeah,
the amount. $364 million, the ban on conducting business, and having, for limited periods of times, the ban on insurance because of the fraud that was committed, the role of the independent monitor, going through the internal audit compliance officer who now has to be installed within the organization. So all of that is there. I just think Engoron,
not just money, but indignity, which is like the worst thing for Donald Trump, right?
I love it. Everybody,
couldn't happen to a nicer guy. Yeah.
Make sure you all subscribe to the Talking Feds YouTube channel. They're on their way to 250,000 subs. Just go over there right now after you watch this video and subscribe. Hit subscribe here. If you're not subscribed to the MeidasTouch network, then what are you doing? Make sure you hit subscribe. But then go over to Talking Feds and tell them that we sent you. They're partnered with the MeidasTouch network, and we want to make sure that they hit 1 million subscribers as well down the road. Thank you, Harry. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Van. Have a good weekend.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.